Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beating Burnout in the New Normal Day 3. I am going to take a moment. I am going to check and make sure that we are good to go. We are live and you can't hear me on the echo. That's always good. It looks like we are all set to go. So if you join me here live, let me know. If you join me here on the replay, let me know that too. We are rolling today. I'm excited. Technology is now becoming our friend. Everything has been working really well. And I got my laptop back. Some of you know that I had a little mini computer meltdown the week before Memorial Weekend. Yes, Memorial Weekend. And I had to send my computer in. It was under warranty and they just sent it back. So I literally went outside to grab the box from FedEx before I got here on the live. So fingers crossed that everything is working well and back to the way it should be, because I have all my fancy audio editing software and things like that on there that I use for some of my programs, specifically for the Clarity Collective, because I do have an entire library of guided meditations and hypnotherapy sessions on there. So everything is backed up everywhere else. It's just the software itself. So I'm really excited to have it back and that our internet's working and everything is going really well today. So today is Beating Burnout in the New Normal Workshop day number 3, and we are halfway through already. And so I'm going to do a quick recap and then we are going to dive right in, because today, now that we know what stage you're in and what areas you need to work on most, those are the things I want you to put in the comments. So when you let me know that you're here, make sure to put in the comments, what areas do you see that you could do more work on? And then we are going to talk about how to create more of that work-life harmony. Again, it's not about constantly being on that teeter-totter and trying to balance. It's about harmony. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can share my screen with you all and go back to our slides. Let's see what we can do here. So tell me how you all are feeling this week. I know we've been talking a lot about these things, and so I want to do a little check-in to see where you all are at, if it's something that you have struggled with in the past, or if it's something you're struggling with right now, or maybe you might even recognize some of these signs and symptoms from loved ones and people in your household. So let me know where you're at with that. And we will work today to figure out how you're going to incorporate these strategies to recover from and to prevent burnout into your daily life. So here we are, everything's going well. We know what burnout is, right? We figured out that it's that physical or mental collapse caused by overwork, too much stress, all the things we're dealing with this past year. We talked about the rates of burnout skyrocketing over these last 18 months, and we went through the stages, right? So we went through the enthusiasm stage, super excited, committed, ready to work hard, but not building in strategies, right? Not having strategies built into our lives to help be sustainable at this level. Okay, because this level is not sustainable unless you have these systems in place. And if you don't, then you start seeing some of the effects, start struggling, your body starts fighting back, you then are crashing mentally and physically, and then the cycle continues, right? So what we talked about yesterday was building those good habits and replacing the bad ones. And how we were going to do that really was through these 5 principles, right? The principles of building work-life harmony, which were awareness. So being really aware and paying good, close attention to your body as well as to your mental state, right? So really watching for any of those health or those warning signs. So looking at your sleep, looking at your digestion, looking at your mood, your activity level, as far as how much energy you have and how much excitement and passion you have for the things that you love to do. Are you still engaging with the things and the people that you always have? And is that changing any, right? Really paying close attention and being really aware of any changes in that and seeing where they're coming from. And that's where the mindfulness comes in too. So really focusing on each area of your mental and physical health and wellness, as well as the different areas of your life, to see why those things are shifting, why those things are changing. Is it because you are starting to get burnt out? Are you really looking at that, not staying in that denial that everything's okay, where I don't have a choice, I have to keep at this pace? Right? That is really destructive thinking. We're going to talk about some of those limiting beliefs today, but that is one of them, that everything will just fall apart if you don't keep it all together. And then we also talked a lot about the self-care. So we talked about this one here about really guarding your energy and why it's so important to make time to renew, refresh, and recharge and fill your cup till it's overflowing on a regular basis, not just putting off rewarding yourself and treating yourself well until some date when you seemingly think that everything's going to be fine. Somebody recently said to me, I'll rest in 2 weeks when I'm done with graduations, birthday celebrations, all of these things I have going on for work. That doesn't work, you guys. That is not sustainable. You can't say, I'll rest when it's all calmed down, because guess what? It never calms down. I remember going through this whole experience over this last year and a half with the pandemic. And I remember starting to do some telehealth appointments with my doctors. And I did share with you all personal stories about the fact that, I've been through burnout a couple times, and there were still some parts of my body that even years later are still affected by it. And so that's why we really want to prevent this, because there can be some long-term health effects. And so I am in the active process of, being really intentional with my health and setting those intentions. We're going to talk about how to set those intentions today as well. But, for me, I needed to set those intentions and follow through on continual self-care, taking care of myself, taking the supplements I needed to, seeing the doctors that I needed to see that could support that health. So that is something that I've had to do. And when I started doing those telehealth appointments, there were some things that I had this particular doctor that would say, let's put a pin in that until things calm down. I remember being really irritated when she would say that, because I was like, who knows when that's going to be? Like, that's never going to happen, right? We had no idea. And just now, a year after that conversation, probably, things are starting to quote unquote calm down. And that's why we're talking about this new normal, because now it's a hybrid. It's not really exactly the way things used to be. It's a little bit of a hybrid of that. And so really being flexible and saying, you know what, why don't we talk about it now? Because then a year later, I went to another doctor. I ended up needing to switch primary cares. And it was this whole process. I love my new primary care doctor. And she was like, well, how long have you been dealing with this? And I said, oh, like a year. It was like right when COVID started. And, we'd put a pin in it until things calmed down. Well, guess what? No, they're never calm. So when you say that and you say something like, oh, when things calm down in a couple weeks or at the end of the month, or when I finish this goal, or when my kids are out of school, or when my kids are back in school, or after the holidays, there's always going to be a time that you're going to put things off unless you make these things a part of your daily and weekly regular routines. It's like brushing your teeth twice a day, every day, right? You have that built into your schedule. So we're going to talk about that today, is how to incorporate those things into your daily life. We're also going to look at the boundaries, right? We're going to look at how and when to create boundaries. When do you know that boundaries aren't working or they're non-existent? And then we're going to look at how to schedule your life according to your values. And when you have all of these 5 pieces working together, it really is harmonious. So think about a song, right? There's a lot of different pieces to the song. If it's just someone singing by themselves, it's nice. But when you have a whole band and the singer and everyone working together, it becomes this beautiful, harmonious song. And so you want to look at your life in these different 5 areas as different pieces of that band, different players. So, you have your drums, you have your guitar, maybe a piano. Of course, you do have your vocals. And so you have all of these different pieces there that come together. You have a bass player usually, right? So there's 5 there. Well, sometimes there's a guitar solo, and sometimes there's a vocal solo. But many times, all of those are all working together. And so there are going to be times when you're just focusing a small bit of time on self-care, right? But in the grand scheme of the whole song, all of the pieces of your life and all of these things are going to work together to create this beautiful harmony and this beautiful song that is uniquely yours. And I think that that's really, really important. When I'm working with my individual clients, as well as people in my group coaching program, the Focus Formula, and even my group therapy program, the Clarity Collective, whenever I'm working with clients in any capacity, it's very much geared towards it being individual to them. Because I think it's really, really important to remember that your life is unlike anyone else's, and you are an individual. And so what works for one person may not work for you, which is one of the reasons why you may have tried all the self-help books or the different coaching methods that people teach, or different, kinds of therapies and strategies, and they may not have worked for you because you were trying to fit yourself and your life into a one-size-fits-all type of a program. So that's one of the things that I do very uniquely, is I really look at the person and what does that person need and who are they. I'm not telling you how to think, how to feel, what to do. I'm helping support you in tapping into your inner wisdom. And I'm guiding you through how to do that so that you don't need that support forever. You can take good care of yourself. Okay. So I'm going to do a little bit of that today and into tomorrow. So our 3 main goals with all of these pieces and having that work-life harmony are, number 1, your physical health, right? Taking really good care of your physical body so that you can show up. Some of the stories I shared about my previous burnout episodes, I don't know that I really told you how limited I was physically by that. Because again, your physical and your mental health, mind, body, and spirit, all interwoven. They're all connected. You cannot separate them. And so if you are burning yourself out, burning the candle at both ends, putting too much on your plate, and you're working nonstop all the time, and you're burning out physically and mentally, it's a crash. And when those things happen, you're not physically able to do the things. And I did share, as far as my business went, that I wasn't physically able to do the things. I couldn't show up in the way that I had before. And I ended up having to close, our biggest business. But I didn't share the little things I couldn't do. And it literally was to the point where I couldn't vacuum my house. I couldn't go grocery shopping, couldn't push a cart, couldn't carry, anything really. There were so many things that I couldn't physically do that are normal everyday things in our lives. And so what happens is if you don't take care of yourself now and your body shuts down and stops you, because it will, if you don't listen to it, it will eventually stop you to the point where you can't even do the normal things, let alone all the things, right? You can't do the tiny things. And so that's what I want you to remember is that we have to support our physical health. We need to hydrate. We need to feed ourselves good food. We need to make sure that we're getting up and moving and getting some fresh air and doing the physical things to take care of ourselves to be strong and have a good immune system so that when adversity comes our way, our body is able to heal, right? And then your mental health. So on the mental health side, you need to support your mindset, your feelings of that well-being and success, that positive mental attitude, that flexibility and resilience and bounce back ability. Really making sure that those things, your physical and your mental health, are combined together. They're working together really well because they do support each other. And when you do that, you will have that third goal, which is that fulfillment. So it's having harmony between all the areas of your life so you can have joy and peace and you can breathe, right? And you can do the things you need to do and you can show up as your best self. That's really important. You want to be able to show up as the best version of you instead of burning yourself out and giving everyone the worst version of you, including yourself. And so here is how we're going to do it. So those are the things we're going to talk about today. So we're going to start up here and we're going to make our way down and then we're going to wrap it all up tomorrow with the support factor. Okay, so we're going to talk more about how to delegate, what kind of support to get, when to get that support. But today we're going to talk about time management. We're going to talk about where to fit these things in, how to have flexibility in your schedule, how to set those intentions and follow through with them, and how to prioritize. And then we'll start talking about boundaries, and then we'll finish talking about that tomorrow. And so again, that harmony in your life is achieved when all the different areas flow in a way that's aligned with your values. We're really going to talk about that piece today. It supports your sense of wellness and allows you to feel successful. You want to feel successful instead of constantly beating ourselves up for what's not going right. We're going to really focus on being successful and what is going really well. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is that time management piece, because I know that that's the first thing you're going to say is, but I don't have time. Right? I don't have time to do that. So that's the first thing we're going to look at is those limiting beliefs. And what a limiting belief is it something that you believe to be true that is holding you back from doing something in your life that you want to do. Okay. And so, you can really look at those beliefs. Is it, I'm too busy? Is it, I have to do all the things, or else everyone's world around me will fall apart? We put so much pressure on ourselves as women, especially, that if we do not take care of everything and everyone all the time, not only will our lives fall apart, but so will everyone around us. Well, think about this. Is that true? What would happen if you chose instead to empower others to take care of themselves? Right? Think through these limiting beliefs that you might have and identify the areas where you have them. Okay, so that's the first thing. And so I want you to really ponder that tonight. Right? Really look at, what are the things that I'm telling myself? What are those stories that I'm telling myself to be true? And examine whether they are or not. Start challenging some of those beliefs. Identify some of those thought patterns that you have had for who knows how long, right? what really needs to be done by you? Examine that. What actually has to be done by you? So there's two things I want you to do tonight. So two little bits. The first one is to look at those limiting beliefs, okay, and to turn them around. So, what is it that has been holding you back that you believed to be true? And then I want you to flip it and create new I statements. So those I'm too busy. I'm the only one that can do it all right. Okay, those kinds of statements. And I want you to create new empowering I am statements. Okay? Because I am only one person and I can take care of myself first, right? I need to take care of myself first in order to support others in the way I want to support them, right? I want to be able to show up for others, and therefore I come first. Look at some of those statements and create more healthy ones. Create more healthy thought patterns. You can tell yourself, what do you believe to be true? And then the second piece that I want you to work on is the list of what actually gets done or you have on your list. Sometimes it doesn't actually get done. It's just on your list, but maybe it doesn't need to be done by you. So I want you to make a list of all the things. So do a little brain dump of all the things that you do for you and everyone else on a regular basis and or is on your to-do list. And then I want you to start going through that list and start thinking about what actually needs to be done by you specifically and what could be done by other people. And how you can identify that is I want you to look at, what do you actually like doing that's on that list, right? What do you actually like? I bet 80% of your list is stuff you don't like doing, right? So start there. And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into your values and prioritization. But I want you to start right at that point. And then we're going to look at the flexibility in your day, because we're not quite, we're going to start scheduling these things in once you identify them. And when you start making that schedule, you need to have flexibility in your schedule. So when you're looking at, for example, self-care, we were talking a lot about that yesterday in mindfulness. Remember how I mentioned about bookending, right? So you can bookend your morning and your evening. It can be before everybody else gets up, after they go to bed, whatever the case may be, the time that you're able to lock yourself in the bathroom, whatever it is, I want you to take some time, even before you get out of bed or while you're lying in bed, getting ready to go to sleep, and have some of that mindfulness and meditative time. Have some time to yourself to just sit and be still and quiet and unplug and ponder and be aware, right? Take that awareness. Remember all those checks about your body. How am I feeling? How have I been eating? How have I been sleeping? How can I support myself better in those areas? How, is my mental state? How have I've been on the scales of things like anxiety and satisfaction, or am I always a little bit on edge? Start really doing those things for yourself and just bookending those days. And then I want you to build a flexible schedule for yourself. When you figure out what actually needs to be done and what needs to be done by you, then you can start to look at where you're going to put those things in. We're going to talk again about values and about prioritization in a minute. But when you're just looking at scheduling in general, okay, one of the things that I did that has really served me well is I've built in breaks throughout my day for two things. Number one, for that self-care and to rest and recharge. I'm highly empathic and I work with people who are going through a lot of emotional things, right? They're dealing with overcoming abuse. They're going through losses and breakups. They are at a life crossroads. There's a lot of things happening with my clients. And of course, on top of everything, they're dealing with all the things that have been going on these last 18 months with social injustice, with the pandemic. They're having some extra struggles this year. And so when I am in between clients, I need to be able to decompress. I need to be able to mentally refresh, clear out, and start brand new, focusing on the next client with a completely clean slate. And so one way that I do that, it doesn't matter if you do the same thing that I do, or, what kind of industry you're in, switching gears so you can completely focus on one thing, take a break, and then start to focus on one thing again is going to serve you really well. Multitasking is not good for us, and we're not as effective during it. And I do talk to my clients about the fact that I know that there are going to be times where you don't have to be super effective, and you can multitask a little bit while you're making dinner, you're having a conversation, the TV's on, there can be multiple things going on at once. But in the areas where you're trying to really focus and be effective, you want to think about only focusing on one thing at a time and then giving yourself breaks in between. So figure out what that time frame looks like for you. Is it 15 minutes at a time that you can focus really well? Is it 30? Is it 45? Is it 60? Probably wouldn't go too much longer than that at a time. I don't do any more than 2 hours at a time. So you can start with that half an hour to an hour and then build up to maybe 90 minutes at a time. I do have some clients that I do 2-hour sessions with, and so that's the longest I'll go. But basically what you want to do then is in between those appointments of things you actually schedule, you need to have open time that's not scheduled. And I know some of you, that's going to blow your mind because you're just go, go, go in between every single thing. And I was that way too. So I do understand that completely. But you want to really look at giving yourself extra space so you're not rushing from one thing to the next all the time. You're not trying to get off one meeting so you can get on the next one. I give myself no less than 30 minutes in between every single meeting, and I build it into my calendar. So physically, no one, including myself, can schedule me during those times. And I do that so that I can take a walk, I can drink some water, I can have a snack, I can just get up and move, I can go to the restroom, I can do all the things I need to do. And I can also respond to anything unexpected that happened. So this is the other reason to do that. It's resting and recharging and making sure, again, you're filling your cup, right? You're keeping it overfilled so you can give it to others on the overflow, but you're also able to respond if something happens. So instead of reacting, oh my gosh, this crazy thing happened, how am I going to figure it out because I have all these things going on, you can say, let me handle this really quick. Let me talk to this person. Let me get this scheduled, and then we'll go back to what I need to be doing. So it's actually giving yourself time for the unexpected, for the things that come up, for the things that happen, for the people who need to speak to you, or the minor emergencies happening in your house. Those are the things that come up all the time that just add to our plate. And when it gets piled on and it gets up to here, we get overwhelmed and frantic and frazzled and stressed and anxious, and we start getting burnt out, right? So that's something that you can do, is building that flexibility in to handle all the unforeseen things and to give yourself time, extra time for driving. That's one thing I also put in my schedule, is extra drive time. I now live out in the country, and so I have extra time to get anywhere. But even when I was in the city, I needed to give myself extra time, because what if there's an accident? What if there's a train? What if, there's just a slowdown somewhere? And think about how much time you've spent in your life frustrated and irritated and feeling horrible and guilty when you're messaging someone saying, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I'm late, I'm in traffic, this happened. Think about that. Think about how much time you've wasted on that. If you just build it into your life to leave early and then just get there and not be stressed. My husband is the master at this. First of all, he's military, which means if you're on time, you're late. So it's all about being early. But it just used to drive me crazy because I was such an on-time person, like show up right on time. And he would just get there half an hour early and just sit in his truck and wait. And because he just didn't want to be rushed. He didn't want to be stressed out and he wanted to be on time. And it's just a much calmer way to live. So really think about adding that flexibility into your schedule and how you can do that and how you can build that in. And it may mean scheduling a little bit less, but it also will help when you start focusing on one thing at a time. You will actually get more done in less time. So I want you to think about that as well, is that you will actually be more effective. So you won't be losing time at all. You will actually be gaining time. And then intention setting. So with the setting of intentions, so what that actually means is you can have an intention, right? You intend to do something. But when you set the intention, setting the intention means you actually are putting it into action. You're actually doing the things, okay? So that is something that I want you to remember is that setting an intention means taking action towards that goal. And so, for example, when we built our house this last year, my intention, and actually started in 2019, so I guess it was going on 2 years ago. It's actually been 2 years now. We've been in our house for 6 months, and it took us a really long time to build because of the pandemic. And so 2 years ago, we started the process of building. Well, first, the end of 2018 was when the idea was born, when I decided it was time to make this major lifestyle shift, and I was going to put this plan into motion. And so it was between Christmas and New Year's. My husband and I always have gone on vacation during that time because it's our anniversary and birthdays and Christmas, everything rolled into one. And we went on this vacation and we made a decision that we were going to make this lifestyle shift, that we were going to close that business that I mentioned because I hadn't been able to participate in it and it wasn't working for me not to be able to work in it. And that we were going to actually build a home on our vacation property, which we already owned. We'd already been developing it for years and we already had a cabin and we thought we have this property. I need to make a lifestyle shift and work from home and slow down my pace. So let's do it. And so that was when the intention began. So that's when I had the intention. But then it was taking the steps to make that happen. So it was finding a floor plan that was perfect because our intention was to build a home where we would both have offices to work from home. We would be able to support aging parents, aging puppies, all of those things. So finding the exact right floor plan and then hiring a builder, right? Hiring a builder. And so setting the intention is actually acting to make it happen. So when you're looking at that, it's like if you have the intention to create a happier, healthier lifestyle for yourself, setting the intention is starting to create actions to make that happen. So then we hired the builder and then we found an excavator and we had the foundation poured, right? And we couldn't see it all immediately. It was definitely not an instant gratification type of a process because what happened? You had to have flexibility because unforeseen things happened and there was a pandemic in the middle of building my house. And so we had 6 months worth of delays on that. But no matter what happened, we had to be flexible and we had to really keep the faith, right? Keep the belief up that we would make it happen, that everything would come together eventually. And when everything shut down, we had no idea if it was going to be 2 weeks, if it was going to be 2 months, if it was going to be 2 years. Who knew? But we just took it one day and one step at a time, knowing that it would all work out the way that it should. And that's what intention setting is about. It's about saying, you know what, I'm going to build this happier, healthier lifestyle for myself. Even if I can't see exactly how it's going to happen, I have a picture, right? Those blueprints were like the vision board of like, here's a picture of what this house is going to look like when it's done. But there were so many tiny pieces that had to go into that. And I couldn't do it all myself. I had to get help from others in order to do that. And that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned through my burnout, was that I needed to ask for help. And so that's actually what we're going to talk about tomorrow, is we're going to talk about how to get that help and that support and what you need and when you need it. But setting that intention and staying in awareness of course correcting, of, okay, what's the next best step? Where am I at? What needs to happen next? It's really, really important. Really looking at the opportunities that you have in order to support that new, happier, and healthier lifestyle. And having gratitude, right? Living in gratitude. So staying in awareness, continuing to practice that mindfulness and that self-care, and really staying in that gratitude of what you have and where you're going, right? Really practicing that mindset. And then detaching yourself again from that outcome. It will happen, but everything should work out the way that it should. So being open to turning over the things you can't control. I could not control that pandemic, but I could control what I did. And I remember when everything was completely shut down, our house was all framed in. The roof was in the process of being finished, and it was just sitting empty for months. I was staring at this empty house, and I was having to kind of babysit it and watch everything. I remember hanging out in my empty house. It was all just wood, right? Just wood at this point. And I just remember just being in gratitude and envisioning what it was going to be like when it was finished, and just taking it one day and one step at a time. And that's really what intention setting is all about, is it's, having that vision and taking the steps to get there, but having faith that it will all work out. And that's another thing I really work on a lot with my clients, is, stepping into that vision so that you can feel it, so that you know what it's going to be like when you get there, and giving yourself those little rewards along the way to keep yourself motivated and keep yourself energized. And then the next step there is that prioritization. Right, we're really going to look at, what do you value the most? What are the things? I bet health is at the top of that list, right? Your health and wellness is huge, and it should be at the top of the list. And the reason why is because without that, none of the other things work. So really look at that as well tonight. Look at your values. Look at, what is most important to me in my life? Is it my health and happiness? Is it my family? Is it my friends? Is it my pets? Your home? What are the things that you value the most? And then put those in order. That's something that I do a lot of these things as exercises in my course in the Emotional Empowerment Project. One of the things we do is what's called a values ladder. And we really walk through their priorities and how to put them in order, and then how to live by them. Right? How to really look at what you value the most, and then put those values in line, so that whenever you have to make a decision, you can decide what to add to your plate based on asking yourself the questions like, does this support my highest held values in life that I'm working to create, right? These values that you have in the life you want to create, is making that decision support that. If someone's asking you to add something onto your plate, instead of just saying yes automatically out of a knee-jerk reaction or people pleasing, really looking at, does this support the life I'm trying to create? And does this have to do with one of my highest held values? Look at that answer. If you are a recovering people pleaser, one piece of advice I could give you is to just not answer people right away. If you need time, if you have that knee-jerk reaction and you always just say yes because you want to make them happy, you can start to give yourself more time to think about it by saying, that's a really great question. Let me think about that and check into some things, and I'll get right back to you. It's okay to say that. If you're worried about saying no, you can do that first, and then you can think about, is this something I need to do, or is this something that someone else would be better at doing or better served doing? Or you can come up with some options, and just say, oh, thank you so much for thinking of me. I have so many things going on my plate right now, but that is something in the future. Absolutely. If you need help again, come to me and I'll see if it's a better fit at that time. You can practice those things and saying them. If you tell them, that you'll get back to them because it gives you the time, right? It gives you the time to do that. So here is the thing that you need to really look at, right? You need to look at in your life, what are some areas where you need to set more boundaries for others, but also for yourself? Because so many times we are stomping all over our own boundaries. We're not setting the boundaries around our time. We're not setting the boundaries for other people. And so what happens is we allow those things to happen, and it contributes to us burning out. And so I'm going to give you some questions right now, and then that's going to be plenty to think about for today. And then we're going to finish this up tomorrow, finish talking about how to set those boundaries and how to get more support and how to delegate. So here are some questions that are really telltale signs that you're in need of some work on setting boundaries. So I'm going to ask you to ask yourself, do you feel responsible for other people's happiness or to solve other people's problems? Do you have a hard time saying no to people? Do you feel like you've lost your sense of identity and who you used to be? Do you make excuses for other people's bad behavior and how they treat you? Do you feel resentment in doing things for other people sometimes, even though you said yes to doing that task? Do you always go along with what everyone else wants? Or say things like, oh, I don't care, you decide. And do you just in general have a hard time making decisions? I have a lot of clients that when they first come to me, before we start working together, I'll ask them, when would you like to schedule your next session? Or would you like to meet next week or the week after? Or, things that are really simple like that. And they'll just say, oh my gosh, I just have such a hard time making decisions. You decide. Or, oh, I don't know. What do you think I should do? And so by the time we are done working together, they can make definitive answers to questions and what they want to do. Because I'm going to turn around and say, well, what do you think? Let's talk this through. And so I help teach them to work through for themselves, what do I really want? Because sometimes they're so out of touch with who they are and what they want that they can't even answer those simple questions. Here's a few more. Do you or others around you act in a passive-aggressive manner? And examples of this could be things like you just saying, yes, I'll do that, and then being angry about it, even though you said you would do it, right? Being resentful about that. That question is actually an example of that, because you're just mad about it and you take it out on everybody else, even though you said yes. Do you feel like you don't get the respect that you deserve? This could be personally, this could be professionally. And the last one is, do you find yourself being the victim more often than not in situations? So those are just some questions that you can ask yourself to see if you have some areas that you need better boundaries in. So that's something else you can look at, is in what areas do I feel like I either have no boundaries or they're not being respected? Again, personally or professionally. And so these are all the areas that are going to help keep your life in harmony. I know that was a lot of information for today. So we are going to wrap up for today, but tomorrow we are going to finish our workshop. We're going to finish talking about how to set some of those boundaries that you're going to identify the areas you need them in. That's going to help with the scheduling. Okay, so setting those boundaries for yourself on the things that you're working on, the things you're saying yes to, your time, all of those kinds of boundaries are going to be really great. You're going to set your intentions and be doing the things that are actually going to get you closer to whatever your goals are, right? Getting you closer to having the life that you're working on creating, choosing those things over things that aren't going to get you there. And so you're going to be working in your values. You're going to be, living them out in full. You're going to be in alignment. You're going to be prioritizing, setting those intentions, and then scheduling based on that, giving yourself that flexibility to take good care of yourself as well. And we're going to talk about how to delegate. That's going to be part of that. And who and what you need support for. So that is going to be tomorrow for day 4. We kind of decided to put it all in to 4 days instead. And so we're going to set up all of those pieces for you so that you can make a change, because, just kind of being here and being in the group and being here for each other is wonderful. It's great as a support system. But bottom line is, you need to take the reins when we're talking about your mental and your physical wellness. You need to be the one that sets those intentions. You need to be the one that sets those boundaries. You need to be the one that reaches out and gets the right support for you. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here today for day 3 of our workshop. Make sure to let me know, again, if you're here live or if you're here on the replay. Let me know your thoughts and your takeaways from today. Any questions that you have that I can answer. I'll also be making sure that I answer everyone's questions tomorrow as we wrap up this workshop. We're going to have a little bit of time to do that. So leave them below. And if you have not registered for the resources, I highly recommend that you do so, because everyone who registered for those resources was able to get all those worksheets from yesterday about mindfulness and how to reduce your stress and how to reward yourself. And they are also going to be getting my slides for the whole presentation. So I'll be finishing those up tomorrow so you all can see them, and then I will be sending them out to everyone who registered. So I'll make sure that the registration link is below in the comment section of this video. Have an amazing rest of your Thursday, and I will see you all tomorrow.